Tina here on behalf of the applicant, Paul Adamson. We've been here quite a few times. Just for this is Hancock Street, the old Sullivan Insurance Company and other buildings that are on the lot. Originally we had 3 more units. We reduced that to help create more parking. One of the issues that recently came up was that the engineering department felt it was a little too close to the abutting properties. We moved that back. Last time we were here, there was an issue regarding the size of parking spots. We have currently, they're all 9 feet wide. We also moved the building and made it a bit different in size to accommodate that. We did, however, at that time we had 30 spots. We're now down to 28, so 1.45 spots rather than 1.5. Other than that, I believe the engineering department, the architect, and our engineer has been in contact as recently as December 31st. New plans were filed. So with that, I'd like to bring up the architect, Tim Johnson, to discuss the new.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll give a brief overview and then I'll hand it over to Mike Joyce, the engineer for the project. We started this project nearly a year ago with 23 units and 26 parking spaces. Through working closely with the city, we're now down to 20 units with 29 parking spaces, to give us a ratio of 1.45 parking spaces per dwelling unit. This site is located between Spruce and Myrtle Street, just south of the Neponset and the Newport Ave extension intersection. So here is Hancock, Myrtle Street, and Spruce Street down here. Our main entrance is, we have 2 entrances. The main entrance, pedestrian entrance, is off Hancock. We also have a secondary entrance off Myrtle Street. Both entrances are handicap accessible. We have our south garage entrance off Hancock. It is an 18-foot wide door to allow 2-way traffic. So we're trying to minimize any disruption to the traffic flow on Hancock Street. We have a secondary, our north garage location, or entrance rather, is off Myrtle Street. And also that is where our trash room is located. We did submit a trash management plan, so all trash and deliveries will be off Myrtle Street again to minimize any disruption to Hancock Street. This is, as I mentioned, 20 units. It's a 4-story, 20-unit building, 29 parking spaces. All floors are accessible by an elevator. These will be 2-bedroom, 2-bath units, approximately 1,100 square feet. As Attorney Keener mentioned, we have reconfigured the parking spaces. They are all 9 feet wide by 18 feet, which is required by the city code. And we also pushed the north building toward the street 3 feet to provide a 3 to 5 foot buffer around the property next to abutting properties. And with the latest foundation systems, we feel confident that we're going to minimize any disruption to the abutting properties. And my client works well with abutting properties to make sure that their concerns are heard and that we take care of any problems on site that may occur. Again, real quick, this is built under the Stretch Energy Code, which is 20% more energy efficient than current code. We follow the Dark Sky Initiative. All our lighting will be downlit and shielded to minimize light pollution. Our project architect, Catherine Orchek, spoke recently with Paul Franz at Parks and Forestry. The trees we're using will be a hornbeam species, which is used throughout the city. And Paul Franz worked closely with our landscape architect. And in closing, our traffic study, briefly the executive summary, says increased traffic volume on Hancock Street intersection is expected to result in virtually no noticeable increase in delay due to this project. Where the delay comes from, the traffic engineer went on to say, is heavy morning traffic at the Newport Ave extension intersection is where most of the traffic or backups will occur. So that is a quick overview, and I'll hand over to Mike Joyce, the civil engineer for the project.
Good evening, I'm Michael Joyce of Joyce Consulting Group, as we mentioned, the civil engineer for the project. Since you've seen the project last, there hasn't been a whole lot of change from the civil design standpoint. Still all new water, sewer, gas, utility connections. Proposed drainage system will result in a reduction in all the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storms. The main changes we made were adjusting the site plan to accommodate the new footprint. We widened the driveway at the Hancock Street entrance, provided a handicap accessible entrance along Myrtle Street, and then shifted the street trees. They were at the back sidewalk. Through conversations with the city, they prefer to have them along the street, along the back curb, and provide pedestrian access behind the trees. We've also added some details in the detail section for handicap accessible pedestrian ramps at the Myrtle Street and Hancock Street entrance. That's really about the extent of the changes from the civil standpoint. Thank you.
Any questions?
Just one question, and
Sure.
perhaps I missed it, but pedestrian safety features coming out of the garage, could you just remind us what those are?
I don't know that we provided you with any information on that, so Tim, I don't know if you have some
Yes.
information on that.
Yes. We'll be using a red strobe. So
Okay.
as the garage doors open, the strobe will actuate. We won't be using any bells or horns to bother them. So it'll be a visual alarm that the door is opening on both the Myrtle Street door and the Hancock Street.
And any mirrors for the car to reference coming out? Granted, the lights will help the pedestrians, but if you get a kid riding a bike down the sidewalk, any way to alert the driver?
Yeah, on other projects I've worked on, it's after almost the project's completed where we look for what a mirror can be mounted somewhere to help.
Okay.
I actually get in my car and go in and out the driveway. So if that helps, we'll be more than willing to put up any types of mirrors, parabolic.
Great.
Any other questions?
Just have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Mason.
Thank you. Can you remind me what the material is again for the exterior of the building?
Yes. My client likes to use, the exterior material will be a fiber, a lightweight concrete fiber cement material, hardy plank, allure siding to that, along that same line. Will be also all the trim will be what's called ply chem, which again is fiberglass mixed with lightweight concrete. It cuts just like wood. So there really will be no wood on the outside of the building. It'll all be long-lasting materials. The windows will be aluminum clad or fiberglass. The base will all be masonry brick. And any painting of, typically we would get the siding in a stock color, which has a 50-year warranty. If we painted on site, it would just be a acrylic latex enamel.
I do believe you asked for samples quite a while ago, and we did bring it up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have two, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
One follows up my colleague's question about exiting on Hancock Street there. And I see that you've drawn in trees on the sidewalk, and I appreciate your effort to include trees, but has anyone thought about the sight line? Will those trees affect the sight line coming in and out?
The traffic engineer has required, city traffic engineer, that the canopies be higher than 6 feet. So or higher than 6 feet, or if we had low-lying shrubs, I think less than 3, but.
So that's been,
So that's what, that's what she recommended, and that's, I believe there's a note on the landscape architect's plan to that extent.
And we've also provided a 20-foot wide aisle in the the south garage,
Yeah.
that the door borders on Hancock, so the cars will always be going out front first, exiting the garage. No backing out of the garage.
and my second question is, I believe the applicant owns the property next door. Is the intention to develop them at the same time?
Oh, across the street, 135?
No,
No, he owns,
side by side.
on either
right?
side, one's already developed, and I'm not sure, are you gonna start?
I'd like to.
More than like to, it's more cost effective if they can do that. But the old Ritz Hotel's already completely done, and
The car dealership or something?
the car dealership is the other one that's going to be done.
Any other questions from board members? Okay. It is a continued public hearing. Anyone wishes to speak? Come on up, identify yourself. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishes to speak? Anyone who wishes not to speak, obviously, but a little shy, we have letters, we have sheets over on the windowsill for or against. That concludes your presentation?
Yes, it does. Chair.
Peer review is, oh, I didn't say, Jim, you want to come up? Peer review. Good to see you.
Good evening, my name is Jim White, I'm with the engineering firm of H.W. Moore Associates. We've done four peer reviews for this project. Pretty much all the engineering aspects have been satisfied. The outstanding items mostly have to do with zoning. The biggest item being that the project does not meet front and side yard setbacks. There's a 2-foot front yard setback and a 3-foot rear yard setback, where setback as required by zoning is 1/4 height of the building. So that's something the applicant has to take up for the zoning board of appeals. As previously mentioned, 30 parking spaces are required, 29 spaces have been provided. The parking spaces are 9 feet wide, except some of the spaces are impacted by columns. You know, the columns aren't located where you open your doors, so the parking spaces, even though they impact by a 1/2 foot side by a column, it's not, I believe the parking still works properly. One of the things I've been requesting I haven't received is that you really need an accurate property survey when you do a site plan. Make sure your property lines are in the correct location. We received a stamped copy of the survey to show distances along property line, but not bearings, not any angles. And that's something that could be submitted at building permit time. But that's something that's normally submitted during the initial site plan review. A couple of items were just updated. Myrtle Street entrance is now handicap accessible. That shows up on both the engineering plan and the architectural plan. You know, what's shown on the engineering plan will work. It just needs a little more detail, and that can also be done during the building permit phase of the project. The other main item is the small setbacks in the rear yard, side yards. Permission from the abutters will be necessary in order to build the project, in order to excavate down, build the foundation. The building's down 1 story in the side yard for the garage. So it's fairly deep excavation required, and the construction easement will be necessary on adjacent properties. And that's all my comments. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. White? Thanks, Jim.
Great, thank you.
I just have one question, and it's probably whoever wants to respond. How many parking spaces are there on what you're showing on your plan?
There are 29.
29.
Okay.
28 garage parking spaces and one
One on
exterior
the
space
outside.
off Myrtle.
Okay.
And the survey has been updated by Steve DeRoche, just apparently hasn't got it yet.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Chairman and Planning Board members, I have a recommendation for approval with conditions. Planning Department recommends that the board vote to approve site plan review in accordance with Quincy Zoning Ordinance Section 9.5.1 and issue a special permit under Section 5.1.17 parking waiver subject to the following special conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary variances from the Zoning Board of Appeal. Number 2, the applicant is subject to the City of Quincy inclusionary zoning ordinance and shall be responsible for adhering to the decision of the Quincy Affordable Housing Trust Committee for the project. Number 3, the applicant shall adhere to all comment letters issued by the city departments and peer review consultants, including Inspectional Service Department review letter dated October 19th, 2016, a Department of Public Works review letter dated January 9th, 2017, City's Engineer Peer Review Consultant H.W. Moore Associates review letter dated January 4th, 2017, and the City's Traffic Engineer dated January 11th, 2017. Condition number 4, no structure, including building foundation, can be built outside the property line unless an easement or other form of approval has been granted by the impacted abutter. Number 5, the applicant shall be required to obtain any necessary sewer connection permit and street opening permits from the Department of Public Works prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 6, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the Inspectional Services Department at the same time a demolition permit and the building permit application is filed. Number 7, the applicant shall develop and submit a dust control plan to the Department of Health for review and approval prior to any site activity. Said dust control plan is to be implemented during any site activities to ensure compliance with state air quality regulations. Number 8, the applicant shall develop a rodent control contingency plan prior to the commencement of a construction activities on site, which will include the name and contact information for an on-call pest control company. Said rodent control plan shall be developed and submitted to the Department of Health for review and approval prior to obtaining their building permits. Number 9, upon the completion of construction and prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall provide the city with a check in the amount of $15,000 to be used for the repair and or installation of the pedestrian walk signal system located on Hancock Street. Number 10, upon completion of the project, the applicant shall furnish to the Planning Department and City Engineering Office the digital file as-built plans showing all utilities, building footprints, reference bounds, and benchmarks defining the total site, facilities, and rights-of-way. And number 11, the hours of construction activities and delivery of materials will be as follows. 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, and all construction and deliveries shall be prohibited on Sunday unless same are approved by the Chief of Police for Sunday activity. That concludes my recommendations.
Any questions for Mr. Stevens? Okay, the motion?
Motion to approve.
Second? Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.